There we are. Look at that broad shot of this legend.
Better?
Look at how good
Yeah,
looking this guy is in the wide shot. All right. There we go.
I'm ready. I've been sitting here for 5 minutes thinking you were late and it was me.
You know what though? It's a safe bet, Toby, because it usually is me that's running late. How are you, man? It's good to see you.
No, it suddenly I suddenly thought he's probably sent the link in the email. Damn.
You know, Toby, one of the best days we had recently, a couple of days, was when you visited for a convention recently. You and that other pirate friend of yours from the Jabba the Hutt days, Dave Barclay, and we went to
Yeah.
lunch and we destroyed a wine cellar. Yet again, no wine cellar is safe with Toby Philpott in town. But
And Dave. Blame
yes, oh
Dave.
man, no, nothing says comfort like Dave Barclay destroying a wine cellar and then being content to go to sleep in front of whoever's there. It doesn't matter. It shows it's the gold standard of comfort with your friends, and I gotta love the lead he takes with that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he was resting his eyes.
yeah, without a doubt, though, two of the most fun-filled days we've had in a long time, and since we've seen you, actually, we've lost Ronnie Le Drew,
Hmm.
and you and I had actually talked prior to the news breaking. I mean, I knew something was up because he was Ronnie Le Drew, for anyone who doesn't know, is a British television legend. And he was, I would define him as the British equivalent of Mr. Rogers. He was kind of like
Okay,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
personality,
yeah,
very kind. And I knew something was up because he wasn't communicating like he normally does. And he's a very considerate human being. And as we
yeah.
know, with the exception of Toby, courtesy is a lost art in today's society. So I knew something was up, and then you told me privately it's not to be reported, but
Yeah, yeah.
stage four and the prognosis isn't good. And that was some of the worst news I've got lately because of how a special Ronnie Le Drew was. But I think you knew him a lot better. The one thing I'll say about him, we'll read some tributes because you wrote
Oh,
one, I wrote one, and we wrote things that were fairly sincere. Other people tended to kind of infuse themselves into the tragedy online. Like it was almost
yeah.
like, but you wrote something I thought that was very genuine to the man himself. In fact, I'm going to read it. May I read it real quick? Can I read
Sure,
Toby's?
yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
read Toby's. I'm going to read Toby's uh, sort of report, if you will, on. I have to get past some of Toby's political postings. Well, one was said so sad, but that was from because he worked on Labyrinth with you, didn't he, Ronnie?
Yeah, and Little Shop of
Yeah.
Horrors.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I knew he'd done like Muppet Christmas Carol with you guys, and there's quite a few posts on Toby's Facebook page about
yeah.
Ronnie, and justifiable.
People,
But here is I think one of the best tributes I read yesterday, and it was Toby Philpott. We both posted the news clip from the British Puppet Guild.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they wrote, "We are saddened to announce the death of our president and friend Ronnie Le Drew following a short illness. Ronnie has been our president for 10 years, possibly the most active and supportive president we have ever had or will have. Attending nearly every event, whether it be online or in person, often performing when asked, and always willing to chat, tell stories, and entertain in whatever way he could. Ronnie was, of course, known for Zippy, but his legacy in the puppetry world stretches far more than that, and there will be countless puppeteers mourning the loss of our dear friend. He meant so much to so many, and the legacy of his life will live on. Not just puppeteers are in mourning today." And then Toby shared that, which we both did, and said, "Very sad news indeed. A wonderful, gentle man. R.I.P. Ronnie Le Drew." And that was short and sincere, the way a true friend should write it. And there is no other way to explain him than he was a gentle human being. Like I said, Mr. Rogers, basically.
Yeah.
And of course the tribute started to roll in. Your thoughts on that, Toby?
Well, it. I realize he's not big in America. Okay,
He's not.
that's the puppet world is fairly anonymous. The puppet is more famous than the puppeteer. So the equivalent to Zippy, the reason he's so famous and popular is a bit like Sesame Street.
Hmm.
For many
Yes.
people, Zippy would have been the first creature they saw when they were 3 or 4 years old that they could relate to as young, bit mischievous,
Yeah.
uh, puzzled by the world, great, brilliant ideas, and a bit clumsy. Just a character that young kids identify with. I meet so many people that when Zippy was my first experience of puppets. So as I say, it's rather like the UK's version of Sesame Street. He also did Sweep, who was a little dog puppet. Those Sooty and
Yeah.
Sweep were two hand puppets, um, which had the same amount of fame in the UK, but are not worldwide. And Ronnie did both of those. So although I saw him more when we were working on films, we
Yeah.
were both background characters, relatively so. Whereas his TV work, he's actually the focal character,
Well,
and that's the difference.
Ronnie would tell you there are no small puppet characters, only
Well, no,
small-minded puppet actors.
yes,
But
yes, yes,
he was well respected by all the Star Wars puppeteers. If his name came
absolutely.
up, yeah, if his name came up, there was a sense of reverence with it. It was almost like he was the old Jedi master, or Kung Fu
Yeah.
master, where it all started. And oddly enough, just recently, I was talking to Simon Williamson, who one of your Star Wars compatriots, who we love around here, who was like, I just did a convention, and I was so proud of myself because I found another character. Simon, for the
Mm.
backstory here, is like 15 characters. He's 72% of the cast of Return of the Jedi. And he
Yes.
keeps finding call sheets where he forgets and remembers. He's like, oh, yeah, I was that character too. So Simon goes, I just went to a convention and I got a new 8x10 of a new character I played, which is a slug on a wall called SIX or something. He
Yeah.
was so proud of himself. And he's like, I got this. And I go to the convention and it's just me and it's one other guy. But who's the other guy? Ronnie Le Drew. So, of
Yeah.
course, yeah, nobody comes to my table. I'm totally ignored. And the kids are surrounding Ronnie Le Drew. And there's a
Yeah.
line for Ronnie that goes about 600 meters. And
Yeah.
nobody can wait to meet the guy who
Yeah.
brought Zippy to life. And that is, and Simon, in all his charm, told that story in such an endearing way. But it kind of shows you what he did mean to the public, particularly the British public.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Well, you've got to understand. I mean, we don't bring puppets to the show. I
yeah,
ought to get a Selector's Crumb or something,
you should,
um,
you should,
because that queue was to meet Zippy. Yeah,
yeah,
of course they want to meet Ronnie, but Zippy was actually there, and they could have selfies with Zippy,
yeah,
who's a TV star. It's like
yes,
being with
yes,
Kermit. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
yeah,
It's not. Ronnie's still a quiet, anonymous person, and Zippy is
yeah,
this character, this lively, completely different character. Ronnie was one of the gentlest, quietest men, in real life.
yes, yes. Almost soft in a way.
Yes, yes,
His
yeah,
presence he spoke and moved as if he didn't want to break or damage anything.
yes,
Um, and he had this trademark. He always signed off our interviews with this trademark from his puppet days. That's goodbye.
yeah,
Like this goodbye, which I
yeah.
think is how he signed off the show. The show never ran here. It's probably on YouTube, but I think that's
Some
how
of it, yeah,
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 he signed off the show. And that's what I was thinking of yesterday, actually, when the news broke. I waited for a while to post anything because I just wanted to kind of take it in. Whenever I get news of someone passing away, the first few moments kind of belong to my memories
yeah, yeah,
of like, it's almost like you see like a Super 16 film reel of all our moments together. And then all of a sudden, I think
yeah,
he's dead now. And the film runs out and the light
yeah,
flickers in and you're like, movie's over.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm fortunate. I was in a happy place yesterday with my family, seeing Hadestown on the big screen,
All right.
which, by the way, is an experience I'd recommend everyone take in. It's phenomenal. Even if you've seen it live, to see it on the screen was like, wow. So I had sort of a painkiller in play, but
Hmm.
afterwards, your note was the first note I saw, which made sense to me because we communicated, and you're like, look, it's not to be reported anywhere, but it doesn't look good, and that's the least we can do for a kind person like that is keep the news private if they want.
Well, yeah, I mean, somebody contacted one of his friends contacted me, but at that point we didn't really know what the prognosis was.
Right.
Sorry, I seem to have lost my voice. Um, it could have been 2 weeks, it could have been 2 months. They didn't know
Yeah.
exactly, which is why, I was hoping that I'd get to visit one time, or I
Yes.
don't go to London very often, but I was still keeping it in my head to be optimistic that perhaps he would be here long enough for me to visit. And then, literally 2 or 3 days later, we heard the bad news. I mean, in one way, I'm glad he's out of discomfort, because I'm sure he wasn't very happy in a hospital in a shared ward with
Yeah.
no privacy, almost certainly in pain of some kind. Um, and
That's
I
the
think he
thing.
probably,
Finish your
so
finish your
there.
thought, Toby. Sorry.
Well, that's all. Is like my mum, who was a stoic, and you'd say, "Are you comfortable?" And she, "Yeah, yeah, it's all right. I'm not in pain." But she was in pain.
Yeah.
She didn't want to spoil it for other people. And you can imagine Ronnie just going, "I don't want to upset anybody. Please, Ronnie."
Yeah,
But you can imagine.
that's the thing. These final visits, and we've all made enough of them. I mean, I just did this with a surfer buddy, a Hawaiian friend of mine who passed away from cancer rather suddenly.
Yeah,
And they don't often want visitors or have the strength for visitors. The visits for us.
yeah.
And I remember I got a chance. He asked to see me. We were all at the house. He was in hospice care. And I went in there and I said, "Look, I don't want to talk to you. I'm just going to play some Hawaiian music that I know you love." And I put
Hmm.
on this Hawaiian music soundtrack, and you could see him starting to groove for a little bit. And then I got the idea. We're in Studio City. I said, "You know what I'm going to do? You know what you need?" Because we grew up surfing. "I'm going to go down to the beach, and I'm going to get a big thing of sand, and I'm going to put it all over your feet." And he's like, "Yeah, brother, go do it." And I'm like, we're gonna get this whole place sandy and sand the shit out of this place. It'll make my aunt own the house. She'll be crazy. She'll be so furious. It'll be like one last prank. And we did that. We drove down to the beach. We loaded up a bunch of sand, drove it back, threw it right in the bed on his ankles. But there was sort of a therapeutic sense of kind of calm with it, with the music. And that's
Yeah,
really all it was. There was no time, no really inclination to look back. And I think there was, in that particular case, there's some acceptance. And I think Ronnie got to the point where he had had such an impact. I am sure in his final hours or days the regrets were there, but there must have been a level of contentment for what he had done and what
hmm,
he had promoted. So much goodwill,
hmm.
so much goodwill, and he had to be aware of that. And I mean,
Yeah.
all
Oh, sorry.
no, please.
No, I seem to have got a catch in my throat. No, because I realised when he came out to do conventions,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago or something. Um, I happened to be at the first one that he went to, and he didn't know what he was doing. He had the table next to me.
Hmm.
He had Zippy with him, but he didn't have, at that point, he didn't have his book, and he didn't have
Yeah.
um, any photos or anything like that. He really didn't know what he was doing. And he sat down at the table, and we hadn't seen each other for a long time. So, of course, we had a bit of a chat. And he said, "But I don't know, why would anyone want to meet me?" And they go, "Ronnie, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
will have a queue, and they will bring things for you to sign, or they'll want to play with you or talk. Don't worry about what you have to do." But I did coach him into how conventions work on that first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
because I already have a routine. I have my pens, I have my
Yes.
photos. I've got my little stories, and
Toby
um,
Philpott is a convention ace, and he is very lucky that he had that table next to you. I mean, it's a shame the convention organizer didn't sort of talk him into a strategy like, hey, here's what you should bring. But he's very fortunate to be next to you. And, and you're more patient than I would have been. I would have been like, shut the fuck up, Ronnie. I'm not even going to listen to this self-deranged. No one's going to want to meet me. I mean,
yeah.
that's
Well,
like
the
Mr.
thing,
Rogers saying, nobody wants to meet me.
yeah, no, I mean, I've seen him. I've seen him so many times since because he got
Yes.
onto the convention circuit,
Yeah.
and he got on top of. It's a game. Mostly the people visiting you sort of set the tone,
Yeah.
but you also have to control it a bit because otherwise they'll be there for 10 minutes and there'll be a line building up. So you have to learn to go. Here's a 3 minute story for you.
Hmm.
Whatever. If it's quiet, you can spend more time with people.
Right.
If it's busy, you have to, manage it. But
Hmm.
he got really good at it, and he's such a friendly soul that
Yes.
he took to it very easily. Is what I'm saying. Some people are shy. Some people are, don't feel comfortable in conventions. But he really loved it because it just meant meeting people who love you.
Hmm.
How can that be uncomfortable?
It validated, I think, for him all and for everyone who does these appearances on some level, but certainly for
Yeah,
him getting into it, it validated his decades of work. It's like you get to see a real life response to your investment in the public.
yeah.
And
And when you do TV, it's millions of people.
yes,
I mean, it's
yes.
literally millions. It's not like doing a street show where it's a
Yeah.
hundred people.
I mean,
Um,
another comparison you can make for Americans who don't understand the cultural context of Zippy is Barney. He was
yeah,
kind of like a Barney the dinosaur.
there you
Um,
go.
without all sort of the obnoxious draws Barney gets because Americans are just so full of hate in their spare time. They need to combine their hatred with like their sense of I'm clever and combine it for the rest of the world to take in, and they just
Yeah.
destroy these things. But he was kind of like that kind of a character in a sense, sort of a household guy. And
Well,
that's what were you gonna say?
no, no. Sorry, no. I keep
No, no, no,
interrupting,
Toby.
and then I can't speak.
Toby.
um,
Hey, I
no,
get
I
choked up too over this. There's no shame.
I should point out the family connection is that Ronnie, because my dad was a puppeteer and his
Yes.
wife, third wife, um, Ronnie had worked with my dad quite a lot, and his wife, Violet Philpott, did Zippy on the very first show. She was the puppeteer for Zippy,
Oh, wow.
but she was kind of she'd done a bit of TV puppets and things. But she put her back out from working in uncomfortable positions because, with Jim Henson, he builds the stage around puppeteers so that
Yeah.
it's as comfortable as it can be. But on the TV studio, they didn't do that. They didn't take a hole in the ground. So she was lying under a table, with her
Yeah,
arm up in the air.
exactly. Get under the desk. It's just
Yeah.
so, climb in the
So
gutter. Stick your hand up.
yeah, and she'd put her back out. So
Yeah.
he took over the puppet. So I have a kind of family connection to Zippy in
Yeah.
that sense.
What year
Um,
was that? What year did she do that?
oh,
Do you remember?
no idea. I'd have to dig the book out. Back in the late 60s, early 70s,
Yeah, I was going to
something,
say probably before I was even born.
probably. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're about
So
the same age, Toby.
they also did. They also did. They did puppets a funny way back then. They had one person do the voice and another person do the puppet, which again, these days,
Mm,
it does happen occasionally, but normally the puppeteer does the puppet and then maybe an actor dubs a new voice on,
yeah.
like with Jabba,
Yeah.
for instance. Occasionally, um, it's the other way around. There's a satirical um, TV program called Spitting Image, which uh, which does caricatures of politicians and famous people. And with
Mm,
that one, the voice artists lay down the track because they're doing impressions, and the puppeteers then lip sync to the tape. So it's not unknown for someone to do the puppet and someone else to do the voice,
right.
but it's unusual in the puppet world. Generally speaking, you build the puppet, you voice the puppet, and you animate the puppet. That's To
Ye-
puppeteers, that's what you do because
and
it's
it would
your
seem,
character, you know.
yeah, and it would seem like there was some kind of intuitive connection. You would build it, and
Yeah.
all the things you think in the creative process, from conception design to building it,
Yeah.
that's something very genuine. That I think that's basically, the same way Dave Prowse in the Darth Vader suit. It's like there is
Yeah.
something about living with it, building it, that sort of cannot be replaced and shouldn't be fabricated. I think with like lip syncing to tracks. I think it's. I mean, well,
Well, no,
just look at the guy,
yeah,
just look at like Frank Oz or Jim Henson compared to.
yeah,
Anyway,
exactly. I mean, they have someone else build it, but they've still conceived it.
yeah, right.
And the main thing is that the performance and the voice go together because they can improvise. You can't improvise with the other structure,
Yeah, it's true.
you know. Whereas Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear are literally speaking and acting at the same moment. And if something happens, if one of the lights goes out or something falls over, he will respond.
Right,
It'll
right.
be Fozzie Bear going, "Whoa, what happened?" And but that you can't replace that. And that's where Ronnie, when he was to start with, he was doing the puppet with someone else doing the voice. When the
Yeah,
guy doing the voice died, Ronnie took over doing the voice as well as the puppet, and that's the bit where Zippy is famous.
yeah,
Is when
yeah,
he
yeah.
literally the script improved, the performance improved, and yeah,
Well,
he came alive.
lightning
Yeah,
had struck at that moment.
yeah, yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned Fozzie Bear because I just pulled a Fozzie Bear line out of my hat in a meeting 2 days ago. The famous line in the Muppet movie where Fozzie's on stage doing his one man comedy bit. He's like, "Did you hear the
Mhm.
one about the fat drunk sailor?" And there's a fat drunk sailor in the audience. He's like, "What about him?" And Fozzie Bear is like, "He's a very nice guy and everybody liked him."
There was this sailor who was so fat.
How fat was he?
He was so fat that everybody liked him, and there was nothing funny about him at all.
Also, Dave Barclay and I were laughing about some of the puppeteering stuff. Particularly, we were laughing actually about Frank Oz, the actor, in
Yes,
Spies Like Us, when Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd go in to
yeah,
take the test and they're cheating with the eye patch has the answers and Frank
yeah.
Oz suspects it.
You may begin now.
Frank Oz is in some ways as an thespian an underappreciated talent. Let's look at some of the tributes if we could briefly before we bounce
Yeah.
to subject number two. Let's look at some of the um, Ronnie Le Drew, if we could, sort of tributes. And there's been a lot of them. Um,
Well, one of the reasons I've been posting them on is because people have got video clips and things,
yeah,
and I didn't have access to those,
right.
and so I'm posting them on because it's lovely to actually still see him and hear him.
Yeah, isn't that a fascinating thing? I love that you can still hear someone after they've passed on like that. Um,
Somebody sent me a tape of my mum teaching once. I
oh,
mean, she'd been dead 20 years, and a
wow.
student got in touch with me through the internet and said, "Do you know I recorded one of the classes that I was doing? This is an old cassette." And I said, "You did what?" Because she was a voice teacher, right? He said, "I've got a
This,
tape of her voice." So he sent me this. He was in New York. He sent me this cassette, and then suddenly there's my mum again. It's like, wow.
that's amazing. I just had a similar, not with someone so high profile and endearing as your mom, but I was watching the family film Texas Chainsaw Massacre's audio commentary. Good family film for a Sunday after church. And director Toby Hooper and Leatherface Gunnar Hansen, who was the backup Santa Claus to our Christmas event. Not many people know that, but that's actually a true story. And they're both talking and they're laughing and they're joking. And I played some of that for Sean because Sean and Gunnar Hansen, yes, the actor who played Leatherface, were like best buddies when he was in town. They were like two peas in a pod clowning around. And it was so weird to hear them talking as if they were just like you. I almost felt like, oh, I should pick up the phone and call these guys and see how they're doing. But I forgot that they had passed. So it's anyway. Here's a tribute from Rainbow, actually,
Okay.
the ITV series, which is appropriate because this was the home of Ronnie's work, and it says. It's with a heavy heart that we need to inform all of our Rainbow fans that Ronnie Le Drew, the puppeteer, and the voices of Zippy and George has sadly passed away this morning after a small battle with cancer. I don't know how small a battle is with cancer. I think short was probably what they meant
I
to.
think he kept very quiet about it
He
because
did.
Sue, who told me, met up with him, and Dave Barclay was in London too, I think. And they saw him and went, "Wow, you've really got to see a doctor." And he was still going, "Yeah, I will. So I suspect he'd been neglecting the follow-up, which
Oh,
is why it
man.
feels so sudden.
That's painful to hear.
Yeah.
Ronnie will always be remembered for being so kind, warm, and friendly.
Yeah.
That's all true, very true. And being a bright light in everyone's life. He inspired many people to take up puppetry, and many living room family memories created through Rainbow. So this one seems like it was written maybe through the bombardment of emotions,
Yeah.
but it is sincere. British TV wrote Ronnie Le Drew. This seems like this one just came out of Downing Street. Ronnie Le Drew,
Wow.
1947 to 2026, R.I.P. Ronnie was best known for being one of the voices behind the puppet Zippy in the iconic ITV children's show Rainbow. So not a lot of sincerity there. I mean, why don't you just polish it off with God Save the King? Not a lot of sincerity there from British classic British TV, but they did put the word out. And
It's a
here's
bit
from
tricky for people like me or my generation because I didn't actually watch Rainbow. I was a
right,
grown-up,
right, right.
and I didn't have little kid to watch it with. So I knew about it because of
Yeah,
the connection through my dad and stuff. But he's not, for me, he's not. Yeah, okay, Kermit's one of mine, but I was a
right,
grown
right.
up. The thing about the Muppets was, of course, that they captured the grown ups as well as the children, whereas Zippy was distinctly a small child program.
That
Rainbow
often
is
happens.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rainbow is definitely free. That often happens with us, though. We know the person behind the work more so than we have a love for the work. So, though we're aware of
Yeah.
it, we have the human connection. I mean, I'm often out with people and I forget they're famous until somebody stops
Mhm.
by the table for an
Yeah.
autograph. With you and Barclay, it was nuts at his favorite Mediterranean restaurant. Once we let the
Yeah.
word out that you guys were Jabba's, the
Well, it
staff went
started with
nuts.
the way.
but
Yeah.
but and you kind of realize, oh yeah, you're that guy. The same with Ronnie. Like Ronnie would be very unassuming, but if you like somebody in the restaurant got word he was Zippy,
Yeah.
boom, boom, like
Yeah.
right on him. And we witnessed that a few times. Here's an interesting one. This is from Ronnie Le Drew's Facebook page, which I think we're both
Okay.
associated with.
Yeah.
It says, John, Ronnie's son here. We're devastated to announce that Dad passed away this morning after a brief illness. We're all grieving and sorry for our loss of such a sweet, beautiful man. We will be in touch with information about the funeral when we have it. Many thanks for your love and support over the years, John, Liz, and family. So that's a son I feel making the announcement he feels compelled to make. And yeah, sticking to the bullet points that I think matter because his head's in a different place, I'm sure. I followed Toby's lead and I shared the British Puppet Guild announcement, but I said Ronnie was a kind man and he was loved. The TV world lost an absolute legend, but his thousands of fans lost a family member. All the Star Wars puppeteers respected him. We were told to keep this situation private by Toby Philpott, which was the least we could do for someone who was so very special. And then I said, goodbye in quotes, but not forgotten. And that's because he kind of had this signature goodbye, in interviews, you know what I'm talking about?
I
He'd be
do.
like, goodbye, you know. Um, he Ronnie Le Drew was multi-talented. I could have easily seen him being part of like the Hammer Studios acting troupe. Like all you guys are so dynamic that you seem to fall into something you have a love for, and you make a name for yourself with that particular asset. But all you guys can do multiple things. I could see you all on stage. I could see you all do, and Ronnie Le Drew was definitely that type. Very,
Mhm.
very skilled. And what's sad about what I'm hearing today is that it seems like, this was a very brief thing. And, one can't help but wonder, wow, if you would have gotten in there sooner, would it have made a difference?
Well,
And
that's what we don't know, do we?
yeah, we don't. We don't know. And it may not have, honestly. And I can't speak for someone who maybe suspects something and is terrified. I mean, I've been in terrifying situations with medical, you know, sort of with the medical climate, but I can't speak for anyone. All I know is we loved Ronnie. We loved Ronnie in a way. It's kind of like we just lost one of our fun-loving cousins. It's like we just
Yes.
lost a guy
Yeah.
who was just a really good human being.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, much like with Toby or Dave Barclay, you could call Ronnie out of the blue and say, I've got a kid in the hospital, or I just have a friend who's having a birthday. Son, can you do a puppet thing? And no problem. He would bounce right to it. Not, oh, I need to get paid for that. Or he was just so happy to engage and do what he loved that you almost think that the payroll from ITV and these other things was just sort of a secondary afterthought. He just loved doing it.
Well, and also there is a reason that he became um, involved in the Puppet Guild so much. His enthusiasm for puppetry generally, for the art form,
Yeah.
put him in charge of that, because it's a huge, well, it's a fairly secret world, the puppet world, but it covers a whole range, from marionettes and string puppets to glove puppets to shadow puppets and the animatronic creatures and so on.
Right.
And the Puppet Guild members cover a whole range of the arts, not only building puppets, but also operating them and all that sort of stuff. And he was involved, although he seemed, when I very first met him, he seemed kind of a shy person. That's running that thing is quite a balancing act of business and politics and all that sort of stuff. So he had a lot more energy and enthusiasm
Dare I say,
beyond the puppeteering thing.
yeah, I agree with you. He did have a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and I think he's the perfect candidate for that role.
Yeah.
There are a few other people who have that level of lineage in that art form that can step into that, but he is perfect because his level of integrity is such that he doesn't want to let any member of the guild or any associate of the guild down.
Yes.
He would
exactly.
he would literally, he is the special forces of puppetry. He has that
Mm-hmm.
level of commitment to the art. Now, did you meet him for the first time on Labyrinth? Was that where you guys met, or did you know him before that? Well, you had the family tie-in, so maybe you met prior.
I must have met him briefly when he was working with my stepmom, but
you may not have known because he's so casual. He was so casual,
Well, and also there was a gap when I didn't see my dad very much. First of all, I started traveling for several years, and then he was not well, so that
Toby, if you don't know, got shanghaied by a bunch of Moroccan gypsies and ended up in all these far corners of the something to that effect. We'll get to that later. I didn't mean to break your
Yeah.
story, but
No,
you do
no.
have that. I was in San Francisco and working as a juggler in the circus. Like
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
that guy. So I get why you didn't see everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't grow up with my dad, right? My parents separated when I was, I don't know, 5 or 6 or something. They
Hmm.
both remarried, and I was sort of more under my mother's roof. And I saw my dad every Saturday until about age 11. And then there was a bit of a gap. I mean, they stopped communicating. My mum went abroad. And I mean, I don't want to bore you with the details, but essentially, I lost contact with my dad until I dropped out of school and everyone disapproved. And I wrote to him going, help, they're all telling me I'm crazy and I ought to go to university. And he wrote back like a 4-page letter going, because he was a maverick, he was a bohemian,
Yeah.
and he went, listen, if that's your temperament, if that's your nature, you've just got to follow your dream. He was the only adult I knew that went, go for it. Because I was threatening to drop out. I mean, we didn't know about the 60s at that point.
And
I thought it was just me.
don't you love that? Don't you love that getting that in a letter? Because most of parents would have said, "Well, they're right. You are crazy. So get your
Yeah,
ass to
no,
that universe." But I love that
no.
he sent you a letter saying, you have to embrace the opportunity
He
and
he
where you're
stepped
at in
in,
life.
and he came good at just the right moment. He was the dad when I needed a dad.
Right. Good
And
for him.
yeah, he sent a lot of suggestions. You could go and do voluntary service overseas. You could do this. You could do that. Just don't listen to them. If you're not happy with being an academic and all that, you've got to do what you imagine yourself doing. And of
Right,
course, that
right.
ended up as a street performer, clown, juggler thing, which was very much like what he was doing in the 30s when he was pushing his puppet show around England and passing the hat. I mean, some bit of me was very like him. And when I got away from the influence of my mum, bless her, she wanted me to be an intellectual, which is great. But it just felt all wrong when I was 18. It just felt wrong. So anyway, then I didn't see my dad for quite a bit because of all the traveling. And then I started seeing him briefly in the 70s when I
Yeah.
started explaining what I was doing and how I was surviving. And then he was very supportive. But probably Dave and Ronnie and all kinds of other puppet people went through that house. But I mean, I was just visiting for the afternoon, I mean, having tea and a sandwich and chatting for a couple of hours and then leaving. Um, so I didn't see the apprentices, is what I'm saying.
You know,
And I think he was a mentor to an awful lot of people. So I think
yes, yes.
I met Ronnie properly on probably Little Shop first before Labyrinth, when they had a huge pool of puppeteers, had about 20 puppeteers. I
Wait,
can't remember which order it is.
is that the production order on those two movies? Because I know you
I'm
both
not
worked on
sure.
both of them.
I'm not sure.
I
But
can't
anyway,
remember
that's where
either.
we met up when we were puppeteering. And
Yeah,
at that point, because he was being called in later,
yeah.
he probably thought I was not senior, but more experienced, because I'd done the whole Dark Crystal thing with Jim, and they were hiring just lots of puppeteers for Little Shop and for Labyrinth. So there were like 20 or 25 of us, all the kind of main people from London Puppet Network. And that's
You
when
know,
we met. And of course, that's when I realized who he was and how significant what he'd been doing was. But, my dad was never into string puppets, for instance, and Ronnie was an expert at that. He started with marionettes, and they're a very,
yeah.
very different style of puppetry. And he was brilliant at it. He was absolutely brilliant.
I
But
don't think I've. Oh, I'm sorry, Toby. Finish your thought.
no, I was just going to say Henson wasn't particularly into string puppets either. It's just one of those.
No,
It's a whole big range of possibilities.
although we did see a customized rig, and I don't know if I can say
We
who
did.
or the puppet or who the puppeteer was, a customized rig for a Labyrinth character
Yes,
that
yes.
sort of modernized the technique and technology behind a marionette. Very fascinating, but I have to leave it for that guy to bring on his own possible legal action. But
Yeah, but Yeah, I mean, string puppets turn up in Jim's films. They do certain
Yeah,
things, like Kermit on a bike, for instance, is a string puppet.
brilliant, absolutely
My
brilliant.
my foot juggler in as the pod people in Dark Crystal is a string puppet. But
Yeah,
they and there's one dancing pod person, I think. So he uses them occasionally, but just like with film, it's a 2 second cut so that you can see the legs of the creature,
yeah.
and then we're back to glove puppet.
Yeah,
So Jim was basically a glove puppet
let's
person.
2 seconds. Let's get away from this so we can do something simpler. I've never, to my knowledge, met a puppeteer who tells me they were encouraged by their parents to pursue that line of work. I mean, obviously,
No.
Mike Quinn, Lando's
Yes.
co-pilot in Star Wars and or Return of the Jedi, who we all know has got probably one of the most heartfelt stories about finding his way to puppetry. And of course, he gate crashed Henson, which is also bold as fuck. That guy, you gotta love the guts on that guy, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
storming, and it's so of all the people, of all the movie sets to storm, Muppets Take Manhattan, he blitzes in there
Yeah.
and Henson is receptive to it. So God bless Jim Henson because Jim
Yeah.
Henson gave him the opportunity. And let's be honest, not every producer, not every director would accept that as a situation they were going to embrace. Incidentally, on the original Muppet movie, Sir Lou Grade told me
Yeah.
that he is the inspiration for Orson Welles' movie tycoon character. He swears that's based. Now, I've not heard that confirmed, but he swore before he passed away that Orson Welles was doing, or Jim Henson rather, had
Yeah.
orchestrated that character as a tribute to him. But
Mr. Lord, forgive the interruption, but I'm here to audition.
Yes.
We've come over 2,000 miles to... oh, boy.
Kermit, we're all with you.
Please, sir, my name is Kermit the Frog, and we read your ad, and, well, we've come to be rich and famous.
Miss Tracy, prepare the standard rich and famous contract for Kermit the Frog and Company.
could be true, could be very true. However, it also could be very possible that Lord Lou Grade was infusing himself into Muppet lore because that's how a lot of these tycoons see themselves, as everything is sort of remotely inspired or based on him. But one of the things I was going to say is I don't think a lot of puppeteers were sort of shown the yellow brick road on how to get into the business. And with you were talking about how your mother wanted you to be an intellectual. And what I would say to that is that would upset the entire access of the universe. Because had you done that, seriously, you would have not done Dark Crystal, you would have not done Little Shop, you would have not done Return of the Jedi, and somebody else would have, and they would have brought a different set of sensibilities to it, a different perspective, a different set of talents, and it would have been different. And the universe would have just been this askewed parallel world of weirdness. Like, can you imagine a world where somebody else was in Jabba with Dave Barclay and Mike Edmonds, doing the Viking row on the tail there, as Edmonds did?
Parallel universe, isn't it? I mean, in that parallel universe, I probably wrote a couple of fantastic books.
Yeah, you probably did. You probably solved some kind of quantum physics issue.
If I'd had a choice, where I would have gone would have been into TV documentaries, demystifying science and things like that.
Not too late, my friend. It's not too late.
No, but when I tried to, the reason I dropped out was very simple. It sounds ridiculous now, but in order to go into when you're 16, you had to choose what you were going to be doing to head to university. And I went, I want to do English and physics. And they went, you can't do arts and sciences. You've either got to do all sciences. I went, I'm not doing chemistry and maths. I'm not really. I want to do English, but I want to do physics. And they said, well, can you imagine now I could be writing popular books or columns?
Yes.
Explaining modern physics. Or I could be writing sci-fi, or anything.
What?
I could see, but they went. You can't, because of their way. They still believed that science and arts were different things, like different worlds.
What sort of stupid roadblock is you can't do both, especially the way the mind works? It seems like you would be better at both if you did both. And this sort of I've got bricks in my head mentality, which is still in existence, though less and less so, is this, you can't do the arts and science. No, like somebody, like I picture like a secret society wearing monk robes decide this with like torches at midnight. No science and art. Those two things feel so compatible, especially in terms of how you open the mind up. And I will tell you, the huge NMO breakthrough by the Mayo Clinic came from a doctor who listened to someone talking about bartending or something to that effect. Like if we were doing some sort of bartending sort of, and they went into the lab the next day, they applied some element of that story to their research, and bang, blood biomarker that now looks like it's going to be a CAR T therapy cure for many cancers. So who's to say, and why are these stupid fucking rules?
Well, it's just before the 60s, okay? The educational system was still structured that way. So to them, it was to do with scheduling. How the classes would clash. And I went, for instance, they wanted me to learn Latin, and I went, I want to learn Chinese. And they went, why Chinese? China is shut. I went, I'm 18 years old. China's not going to be shut for the next 50 years. Right. If I was fluent in Chinese now, I could work anywhere in the world.
Yes, you could, my friend.
But
yes, you could.
I was a bit of a smart ass when I was 18, and I knew what I wanted. I am very intelligent, and I wanted a particular combination. And they couldn't offer it through my school, which is why I dropped out. I wasn't being sulky. I wasn't being a teenager, or I was going, look, I'm trying to plan what to do with my life, and you're just blocking it. Wasting my time. Crucial time, 16 to 18. Jeez.
That's what Roger Waters thought, right? Now you have the song. We don't need no education. Basically, you're just another brick in the wall. And with that mentality, you are exactly that. China may have been shut, but that's, probably all the more reason to learn it, because at some point, either an espionage angle or some sort of trade angle was on the horizon, as we know, and it became sort of a level of both. But it's funny because it's like, I see you sitting in an office and saying something to the effect like, my dad did not hit the beaches of Dunkirk. No, actually, that's a bad example, because it would have been, my dad didn't hit the beaches of Dunkirk and then quickly get back on the landing craft to evacuate. It'd be, my dad didn't hit the beaches, Sword Beach, on D-Day. Let's do a successful Allied attack analogy. For me to go to school and be told I can't do both science and art, it's like, and you're right. So you meet Ronnie, and Ronnie was very respectful, so I'd imagine he was probably quiet on the set. I don't see Ronnie. Ronnie's not. I'm a here kind of a guy, like some like H.G. Wells or one of these other bigger Hemingway. He's kind of
no, he was a modest, and we were, he was new to filming. TV and film are very different,
right,
in that sense. TV, you've got a deadline. You're making a 15-minute program, and they only give you an hour or two to make a 15-minute program. Whereas in filming, you're there for a month, and you're getting 3 minutes a day if you're lucky. And they're very different disciplines. So he was learning a lot, and we were socializing a lot because, of course, we were all jammed together. I didn't sort of socialize him with it. When you've been together 10 hours a day, you don't really often go out for a drink and a meal as well. You mostly just go home and lie down. No.
And at the end of the day, like you explained once before on Labyrinth, David Bowie comes off bums a
Yeah.
cigarette, and then that's the extent of it. We're all tired.
Yeah, we're all
But
tired.
he also worked on Labyrinth with you guys, and I think you
We
had
did.
was Barclay was on that, Mike Quinn was on that. All you rogues were on that,
Yeah.
and
But
this
again,
is
you're often spread out. I mean, if you imagine the
yeah.
magic dance thing, we're all behind the set, behind the walls, under the floor, and all that. But you're in your own little space often with just headphones to communicate, and you're not socializing. You're not sort of hanging out and chatting. You
You know,
stay quiet and you concentrate, and that's it's only in the tea breaks that you have a moment to chat, and then you've got 20 people to chat to, so you only get a couple of minutes with each person, and you get little
we
cliques of friends.
yeah, we talked about that because you signed a couple of Return of the Jedi call sheets for us, and
Yeah,
which
yeah,
are auctioned off actually on the Combat Radio Christmas Carol website. You can get one and support our work for children battling NMOSD and pediatric cancer. So you can get one. But we found two things interesting. One, Deep Roy's name was on one, and we were like, what?
yeah,
Because he has never come up. He comes up everywhere, but he's never
yeah.
come up in a Return of the Jedi conversation, and his name was on a call sheet. But we said that the tea breaks were on there, and they had an account like tea break for 65
Yeah,
people, and we were like, God,
yeah,
look at
yeah,
that! It's even on the
yeah.
call sheet. It's funny. I saw Labyrinth recently. I put it on for my wife's grandson, and he had never seen it, and he was captivated by it. He's 10, so he's a little bit past what I thought
Hmm.
would be, in today's modern era, what gets whose attention is difficult somehow to say
Hmm.
at times, but he was really intrigued by it. But and I was looking at that moment you just talked about, that whole dance magic dance sequence, and it's a kid's song. Bowie recorded it knowing it was a kid's song, and I
Yeah,
walked away going, that is actually the genius of Bowie, because Bowie knows I've got to get my art into the head of the next generation. And a
yeah, yeah,
kids movie with Jim Henson is exactly the way to do it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
smart. So smart. Everyone is probably like, David, what are you doing this puppet movie? And he's sitting back and he's like, I think I got it figured out. Why don't you shut the fuck up, Brian Ferry?
Yeah, yeah.
we had we'd also talked though. We had talked about, you and I had theories on who they may have asked to do it at that time. If it was,
Yeah,
we both, I think,
this
thought that Bowie was probably the first guy, but
I
we said Sting.
think
I think one of us said Sting may have been considered, or anyway, continue.
no, it's just it's very, very hard to tell because Jim's inspiration would come from all over the place,
Yeah, yeah,
and um, it's like whether he thinks of the story first or gets the character and then writes the story around the character.
right,
And
right.
I really don't know the backstory for that. I would think Dave might know a bit more about it than me, and
Yeah,
certainly Louise Gold or somebody would know probably. Sherry
we didn't
Tippy
ask.
might know.
We never asked Barclay, did we? We should ask him that next time we see him.
Well, Sherry might know. Sherry Tippy, who came to that LA Dark Crystal
Yeah,
convention, because she was definitely. I mean, she knew how she'd spotted the crystal balls
right.
that are used in Labyrinth. She'd spotted that
Yeah,
act
yeah.
and told Jim about it. She'd spotted the crystals in a geological museum in Paris and told Jim about it for doctors. She's one of the. If you can get hold of her,
Yeah.
she'll know a lot more happened in those offices, in those
Well,
backstage offices
I
in
expect you to
pre-production.
set that up, Toby Philpott. I expect you to get to work on that immediately. But I will say that the sequences you're talking about are genius. I you know Terry Jones might know too. He might have a sense of what the
It's
situation
knowing when
actually
people
was.
came on board, because
Yeah.
the pre-production can be a couple of years.
I think it's more
Uh,
fun for us to think about who our alternative casting choices, just being in the business. Like, who would you get if you can't
well,
get Bowie? And he was perfect for that. In fact, he's so good. I think he's part of why it's dangerous to do any kind of sequel or reboot, because it's just hard to match wits with his skill set.
Well, that's why I tend not to speculate, because when they're talking about doing a part two, the first question is, who do you have instead of Bowie? I mean, it's just like it's a stopper as a question. It's just like,
Yeah, and
wow,
and
what's
all
the young
your
person's equivalent? You know,
all your answers are good, but none of them are Bowie good. Like you could have bound, like we said, Sting was a good possibility, and he's a very intriguing choice. I think somebody may have mentioned Michael Hutchins, but because you need a singer, because you want him to actually sing the songs.
yes.
But it's tough because Bowie was Bowie, and he was in his Bowie-ness one of a Bowie kind, of course, and it was just really a special casting choice. And I get that none of you guys were. I mean, Ronnie was such a pro that I doubt. I doubt it. I mean, maybe he told people he was working on something with David Bowie. I mean, I'm not even sure if he would have gone that far as to tell people that. But
He
you
would
know,
probably be more proud of working with Jim Henson.
yes, I think
Guess what?
so
I'm
too.
working on a Jim Henson movie.
By the way, did you see that Henson and I think Frank Oz were there were characters in the new Saturday Night Live film on
Oh, no, I haven't seen it.
yeah, so I mean, look, I always encourage people to see the movie for what they may get out of it, but I didn't think it's not the kind of movie I need to see twice. But in it, Henson comes up and he's distressed about the way the other cast members like Chevy Chase and such are treating the puppets.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it
Well,
at that. You should explore it for yourself.
no, I mean that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
People sneer at puppets, and a lot of
Yeah.
people do. We The joke on set for all the puppeteers was that amongst the actors and the technical crew and all that, we're known as dolly wagglers.
Yeah.
People who bring on the guys that waggle the dollies, like completely demeaning the art form of puppet. To me, it's an art form and it's a skill, and you should try it. If you think it's easy, try
No,
it.
nothing easy
But
about it. In 2001 or 2002 at Warner Brothers, I mean, we had an idea, we had a project, and we said we want one of the characters to be a puppet, but there's absolutely no reference that it's a puppet.
Yeah.
It's just a puppet character, and we don't say he's a puppet. We don't. It's just one, and it's like a kind of a puppet who smokes, and Brian Henson ultimately did do a movie of some sort like that, though I haven't seen it. It was years later, and honestly, he has the right before any of us probably to pursue an idea like that, and he probably had that idea since the 70s. But I remember the studio was like, "Wait a minute, you have a complete cast, and one of you guys is a puppet." And I was like, "Yeah, it'll be great. We don't even have to." We don't even have to draw any attention to it. And of course, we didn't put any thought to what kind of sort of production design you have to build out to accommodate a puppet player. But, anyway, puppets have had an impact for some time. And in that movie, though, at least the way they portray it, Lauren Michaels doesn't really get the puppet thing, which I think Lauren Michaels had the idea to do it. So it's kind of a disrespectful, I think, approach, because you would think nothing on that show, I think on that first day, really happened without some sense of Lauren Michaels' investment in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could say the network maybe wanted the Muppets, and maybe they did, but Lauren Michaels, I think, probably embraced it as a possibility. So, anyway, it's there for you.
Yeah.
Something else on
Well,
Amazon, Tony? Oh, no. I was going to say
No,
something else real quick.
Yeah.
Murder 101 on Amazon. See it, and I'll leave it at that. Your thoughts?
Murder
Go ahead.
101. Okay.
Go
I
ahead.
was just thinking, I mean, Jim Henson literally moved the situation with puppets, that
Yeah.
puppets were for children and were cute and were silly and not for grown-ups. And Jim single-handed really moved the whole situation. And animatronics in particular is now, I mean, we don't even use the word puppet anymore because of the word Muppet in England has become an insult, meaning somebody's stupid. We've had to change the language, but most people that I meet at conventions prefer practical effects, which is puppets again, as opposed to CGI and other graphics. So I just attribute the whole change in the dynamic. It's only culturally. I mean, in Bali, puppets are a religious art form. In Russia, they've been an art form bigger than theatre and circus. But certainly in the UK and USA, puppets have been for kids.
I think,
And
I think the original Muppet movie is one of the best films ever made.
yeah,
For two reasons. One, just the creative content of it all, but also what they had to do to deliver it. That always kind of factors into my thinking as well. And I think The Muppet Show is one of the best shows to ever hit television. Certainly, probably
yeah,
in the top 100. Sesame Street, definitely. With that,
yeah,
the world's biggest classroom. And, what those shows did, I don't know if there's any way to even measure the impact those shows did. Now, of course, the Muppet movies, the Muppets would go to Treasure Island and out to space and all that, and it was fun for what it was. But that initial Muppet movie, and you mentioned Kermit on the bike or the
yeah,
music by Paul Williams,
yeah.
and just the idea of all these. I mean, look at all the people that jumped in that film,
Sure, sure.
Fantastic,
I,
fantastic.
I think Sesame Street was the transition. See,
Yes.
that's aimed at kids. That's educational. It's cute. It's lovable.
Mm-hmm.
It introduces concepts and ideas quite early on.
Yeah.
But the Muppets then freed it up from being an educational project to just being an entertaining project. And that's when the adults started watching as well. Instead of parking the kids in front of Sesame Street so they can go off and have a drink or whatever, they would stay and watch the Muppets. And that was when it changed.
Yeah, unreal. Did you see the one with Roger Moore?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Well, it's fantastic. We did Roger Moore's final interview. He died. Adrian Paul and I did it 2 days after he passed away. But I just recently saw his appearance on The Muppet Show, and he is so slick in all his Roger Moore-ness. Like, you cannot help but love. I mean, Roger Moore was lovable anyway. He never took himself too seriously. He always respected people in the work. And he was just so good on The Muppet Show. Mark Hamill, your boy, also makes an appearance on The Muppet Show. I mean, everyone did it, basically. I think Vincent Price,
Oh, yeah, Rudolph Nureyev, all kinds of people, all sorts. He dances with Miss Piggy. Have you seen that?
Oh, that's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Now,
but,
do you know...
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what were you going to say? I was going to ask you a question related to the Muppets, but if you have something to say, you should probably...
No.
Do you know who the two judges are based on? Somebody said they were based on Siskel and Ebert, but again, like the story with Lou Grade, you can see where it would be true, but you kind of wonder if it would. Who are the two judges based on? Siskel and Ebert. It could be Siskel and Ebert, right? Because they were on TV at that time, though they were very early on.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's you can pick up a style or an atmosphere, but you don't necessarily have to do a caricature of a particular person. But you can pick up their attitude. I mean, if you don't want to get sued, it's quite a good idea to just steal a part of them.
No, yeah, it's always deniability. I always thought about doing that for a Combat Radio Christmas Carol. We should homage the judges, but I didn't think the audience would get it. I think they just think there was two assholes up there.
But heckling the stage is I think Chaplin, before Charlie Chaplin came to America and became Chaplin, in the music hall, the character he played, he would be up in one of the boxes.
Yes,
as a drunk,
I remember.
And he would heckle the acts. So that, it's quite an old joke. The heckling.
He perhaps pulled it off the very best because people actually got mad at him up there. Remember? People were like, "Who is this rude guy?" W.C. Fields, I think, had a gig like that too, where and he was really funny as well.
Yes.
God, there were so many legends that Jim Henson incorporated elements of all of it.
Well, and also musical. The thing where Chaplin was and Stanmore and all those people.
Right,
was popular entertainment for the working classes, as opposed to opera and ballet for the rich folks. And the music hall it would have jugglers and acrobats and comedians and singers and all that. But very, very much popular theatre, and heckling would be part of it for sure. So where I'm going is that there's a thing called melodrama, which was murder mysteries and things. plays with, villains literally twiddling their moustaches and,
Yes.
overacting and all that. And there's one of my experiences of that. I didn't know about it when I was a kid. All right. My mum, being into theatre, took me to a show one day. And there's my mum. She's fairly kind of, grand dame, sort of posh lady. And me and my sister are there. And I'm probably 12. My sister's maybe 14 or something. And the villain comes on and my mum goes, boo! And my sister and I both completely go, Jesus Christ, what's going on? And she's a plant in the audience. There's half a dozen people like her to get the audience to cheer the hero, boo the villain, and all that sort of stuff, because that's how melodrama is supposed to work. But to us, we were just cringing and going, my mum just suddenly went mad. But by the end of it, of course, the whole audience is booing and hissing, because that was a bit like going to a Rocky Horror Show midnight show. Do you know what I mean? The audience is there heckling it and throwing lines in, and it's a style. But I still remember now the toe curling moment when my posh mum suddenly turned into this old witch, Harridan.
I've seen that, and I've heard of that, where people walk in refined and dignified, and as soon as they're in the theater, they go absolutely low-level bonkers, and then as soon as they step back out of the theaters, it's as if it never happened.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure the same thing happens with the wrestling.
Oh yes,
heckling, all that shouting. I mean, participation, audience participation. It's
right.
a whole different thing.
That is actually one of the primary angles of it, is can you get the audience to really get behind what you're doing? And, I remember we had so many of those WWE guys coming through John Milius's office when I worked with him at Warner Brothers, and they would all tell their stories about the tricks they used to work up the crowd and and when it was done, it was like, all right, I'm going for a beer. Who's with me? It's like the whole show's and they really kind of tried to portray. And it's interesting that for so long there was this whole idea of like argument, really, whether it was real or fake. And I think we all knew, well, how many times can you see a guy slide out of the ring, go for a ring bell, and have the announcer say, "The Carnage," grab the ring bell, bang the dude in the head? I mean, you've seen that every week. Like it seems like if this was on any level real, we would have some sort of protocols in place to prevent people from getting brained. Anyway, it's just a fun thing. And I think that's cool with the angle that we were discussing with Jim Henson, where he thought, let's put some hecklers up there, whether they homage anyone we know, Siskel and Ebert, or not. And just have fun with that angle. And that was kind of a cool idea, which is he knew. We try to do that with Christmas Carol too. Like he knew to embrace the imperfections and make it feel like a show in progress. It's not a show for you, like to die. It's like you're in on the joke that we're producing this show. Kind of the first sort of show within a show in a way, when you think about it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean that's they're voicing. The people at home watching TV can't heckle the screen. I mean, you can shout the screen all you like, nothing happens. But these guys are actually saying what you're thinking and all that. It's breaking the fourth wall, really.
Yeah, and I love that they had some of the old Muppets out for the World Cup final, because it was really the best thing about the final. Certainly, we can't give any praise to the Argentinians in that game, but and Jon Stewart pointed out, wait, you bring out the Count? You bring out the one Muppet that should not work during the day. Like even he is like absorbed by Muppet culture. It's like you can't. But I love that they pointed it out. And again, that like one of the things someone should do. Maybe someone has done it, and I just am unaware of it. But someone should do like a complete, comprehensive book on every production element and like an almanac on everyone who was in on everything. Because having seen Sesame Street characters in the 2026 World Cup final that we saw in the 70s shows you the impact. And like I think of people like you and Ronnie and everyone that had a hand in delivering the magic, someone should almanac it all up if they haven't already. I don't know if Henson Studios has had commissioned someone to do that, but put all the archives in book form. Yeah, it would be massive. It would be it'd be like a Britannica set, but that would be good. Because the histories here, I do think, are important and should not be forgotten. And I think someone should do that with the original Star Wars films too. Like, kind of go into all the players that were in on it. Charles Lippincott, for example, a friend of mine
Yeah,
who passed away, and the toys, and all these different things. I just feel like, in a selfish sense, as a fan, that would
yeah.
be something we'd all appreciate. And look, the longer the Toby Philpott chapter is, the better for all of us. The better for all.
So,
Well, Toby, what I'd like to do, man, is get you back in a couple of weeks. We'll have a conversation more centered about some of your legendary exploits. This was, an opportunity to sort of
yeah,
combine your history with that of Ronnie's. And you're an appropriate guy to talk to because you humanize some of these people we've lost in ways and in sincere ways few of us could. So it's always nice to, in a situation like this where you lose someone so special, to get an equally special human being like Toby Philpott on the show to kind of to smile and talk up the good points of what Ronnie meant to us. And that way, in that process, we're also reminded of how sincere and epic Toby Philpott is as well. One of our absolute favorites. I will say Toby is one of the best human beings to walk the planet. And God love you, buddy. We miss you.
thanks, man.
I'll
I'm
speak to you
definitely
soon.
croaking now.
As you should. As you should.
Sorry.
But listen, in your case, it's all sincere. It's been an absolute privilege every time we get a chance to talk to Toby or spend time with Toby. It is one of those special things and special moments. And like I said, my biggest regret is you don't live in Los Angeles with us, with the rest of these criminals. But I'll get you back soon, and we'll see you
Okay.
soon. And
Oh,
you're missed, Toby
we,
Philpott. You're very missed. My
we should
family says
probably
hello, too. What?
I should probably try and get to London at some point and then get together with some of the puppeteers because, for
Yeah.
instance, the last sighting for Ronnie was Ian, Tom, Dave Barclay, Sue Dacre. They have get-togethers in London. The puppet crew from
Yeah.
the 80s
Yeah,
can meet up,
you should
and
embrace
Simon and
that.
Tim and. But I just live
Yeah.
too far away. I mean, I'm just, it's just
Yeah, but
it's
you
so
can
complicated to.
it's the kind of thing logistically we can probably work out with a little foresight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we may get brought together by, I don't know, maybe a funeral. I mean, maybe that's a motivation to all get together somewhere.
Wouldn't be the first time
Playing
a
it by
funeral
ear,
served. Yeah.
That's what they're for.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Commemorative.
be the first time a funeral triggered a big chill type
Yeah,
situation with
yeah.
puppeteers. I mean,
So, yeah, if it happens, it happens. I'll let you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, let us know. My family misses you, Toby. They say hello.
Yes. I never get to see them long enough. It's always a fleeting visit, isn't it?
Yes,
Say
but
hello to me back,
I will.
and hope to see him again soon.
We're privileged to get what we get from the Toby Philpott machine. All right, everyone, until next time. Brother, we love you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
They come out of darkness, sometimes with thunder, sometimes with lightning. Their presence means death. The prison master was afraid of him. The guards were afraid of him. The town was afraid of him. Lucifer is coming for you. Rest easy, Jack Carr said in a low tone. You're in the final 30 seconds of your life. No quarter. No quarter. Kill all masters. Coming soon